So we are going to look at doing batch editing in Workplace. You can do this on a JACE or a WebSupervisor, either one, it doesn't matter. I'm connected to a JACE right now, so that's what I'm going to use. And if you just expand down into Config, Services, and Program Service, just double click on it and it'll take you directly to the batch editor that you see here. So the batch editor is a very powerful tool. You can change lots of things quickly. A really, really good time saver. There's a couple different ways you can get information or components into it. One is just drag and drop. So let's say I want to take all my set points at once from this one controller because I need to make a change to it. I just drag them over and drop them in. Now you see they're all in the list. I can clear them. Probably the most used way to get objects in is just to do a search. So this is a BQL query. You got a couple inputs in here. First one is in, so you see your config, and that's just going to give you anything that's under the configuration. So if I do a click on the magnifying glass, you can drill down and you can go all the way into just a single controller or whatever. For this particular application, we're going to say we want to look at the ASI network. So I'm going to select ASI network and then up type. And this is where you really get to fine tune your search results. You can search for a component, which means any object at all. So if you search for all components, it'll find all objects that are in the ASI network. You can do a specific folder or control point. The control point would find all Boolean, enum, numeric, and string points. You can do a search just for Boolean points if you want, whatever. Program search, alarm class, schedule, and then custom type. And we'll take a quick look at that. Custom type is a pretty vast list of different things. You know, it starts out, it defaults at Baja. You could type in HIS for history, do a history search, and then let's say I want to see my numeric intervals. So numeric interval history extensions, how many of those do I have? Look at there. Here's all my numeric intervals extensions. I got 17 of those inside of my ASI network. And from here I could edit these. So all I have now is numeric history extensions, which is awesome. I need, let's say that for whatever reason, I ended up putting the VAVs into floor 1. So now it is another layer down or something, or whatever you wanted to change your relativization. One thing though, you don't have to highlight these. I mean, you can highlight these to different things. So let's say I don't want the demand group to be changed. I can right click on it, click clear selected items. I can highlight multiples, or even with the shift key, and hit clear selected items. So you can clear out items that you don't necessarily maybe want to make a change to. A couple different options down here. You can do define objects, we just went through. Clear all does exactly that. If I hit clear all, it clears them all. I do recommend doing that between searches, because what happens is if I do a find, hit OK, and then I do a find, and I do, let's say I do a component, or actually let's do Boolean point. Notice that my history extension stayed in there. So if I'm getting ready to make a change to my Boolean points, I don't need to make changes to my history points. You should always do a clear search before you do a new one. So let's go back and do our search history numeric interval. Okay, that's great. And let's see what points we can look at here. So there's a little option at the top here. It says select columns. You can see if it's enabled or not. So maybe I want to do a batch enable of all these in my JACE. You of course can do that in the history manager, but this is just another option to do it. You could change the config, the name, history format, your interval. Now let's say we want to change our interval. So I want to make sure they're all enabled, and I want to change my interval. So I'm going to say, all right, okay. All right, all my histories are enabled, and looks like I got some at 1 minute. Zone temps at 1 minute, 15 minutes. You know what? I really don't need that to be 1 minute anymore. So I'm going to go ahead and hit edit slots. And I'm going to go to interval, and it's at 15 minutes there. I'm going to hit OK. And you notice it set all of these devices, all these components to 15 minutes. Now you'll see in the right hand side there 15 minutes, all the way down. Hit OK. And now everything is listed as 15 minutes. Don't be alarmed. That one used to be 1 minute, now it's 15 minutes. Don't be alarmed if it still says 1 minute, because it may take a minute to update. And if you want to do a quick check, you can just clear it, do another search, and it'll come back and update. But sometimes it will take a minute to update from 1 to 15 or whatever the new value is. You can also add slots. So one thing to note is, notice that one item is highlighted. Don't be confused and think that when you do an edit, you're just editing the ones that are highlighted. So like if I did something like that and then hit edit slots, you are still going to edit any component that is in this list. Doesn't matter what's highlighted at that point. You can do a rename. Type in, you can match case, match whole word, whatever. You can do an add a slot. So that's kind of a neat thing, especially let's say you had, you forgot to put your Boolean change of value history extension on all your Boolean points. You could do a search for all your Boolean points in this, have them all in this object box, and then say, all right, I'm going to add a Boolean COV history. And then I would just click in the new type and do HI, select history, and then do Boolean change of value history right there. I can enable it. I can set my parent dot parent whatever name, and then let's say we want to do a dash and then add display name. Oops. You can go in your history config, change that to maybe say 250, and then hit OK, and that would add. Of course, it's not going to do anything now because there's no Boolean points in there, but that would add your history extension to it. So that's the add slot. You can add a tag. If you got a haystack, your dictionary, your haystack dictionary would be here too, but same difference. Edit slot is probably the one that people use the most. We'll look at that in just a second. You can rename a slot. Same thing as the find rename. It's just renamed as a slot property instead of the actual display name. You can remove a slot. Be careful with that because if you remove a slot, it is gone permanently. The only way to get it back is to add a slot. So if you do a batch edit and do a remove slot for all the points that are, or all the components that are listed here, and you notice your property is blank right now because there's no other slots in it. That's the bottom of the barrel with that extension. But you can't remove a slot, you can't add a slot. Just know that these are permanent changes. It's not something, there's no undo button. So, and then edit slot flags as well. That's probably something that you very rarely ever use. But so let's look at edit slot. So if we wanted to change all these to enable, or let's say we want to disable them right now. We're running out of room or something, we want to disable them, so change that to disable. And you notice they all say false now. You see all the ones that got changed to okay. Yeah, so here's an instance where that happens. So it still says true. If I want to know for sure, I'm like, all right, well, I'm not sure what happened there. Did it really take? Now you see them there at false, 9 or 15, so yes, it did take. And then, all right, I've got my problem fixed. I want to put them back to true. And there we go. We're all back at true now. So pretty cool little tool. Let's look at another one. Let's say you want to edit a proxy extension. Difference there is like if I look at my control points, I'm going to get all the control points. So hit OK, 65 objects. Oh, I didn't clear my search. Clear search, new one, all control points in the ASI network. I got 48 objects. So if I go to my view columns or set columns again, you see these are the things that are available. Numeric history interval. You notice the names are different, and those all say NA now. That's because that we no longer have a point that has that attribute or that property, so it's no longer there. So to get rid of that, we would actually have to go back to get your history extension on there to remove those. So keep in mind, before you clear, you might want to remove columns. Also here, you're kind of limited to what you can edit. So you have a numeric interval history extension. You can edit all those things there. If you get your drop down, you get facets, fallback, your inputs, numeric history interval. There are a few things there you can edit on control point, but it only gives you the attributes and the properties that are specific to these points. So if we want to get a little deeper, and let's say we want to change something like a pole frequency on the proxy extensions that are associated with these control points, then I will go back and say, all right, I need to find components instead of control points. And here, let's clear our search first. Clear. And I want to find components. Hit OK. I had 65 objects before. Now I have 163 objects. And if you go down through here, you'll see proxy extension, proxy extension. So here's the control point device address. Here's the proxy extension for the device address, and it has different properties associated with it. And if I go to my edit slots now, you see it comes back to my new my cooling airflow occupied max set point. They are alphabetized, but inside that list, if I type PO, it takes me on down the list. There's pole frequency now instead of the minimized list that I had before, because it's pulling all the properties that are associated with proxy points 2 or the proxy extensions. Pole enabled, oh, wrong one. Pole frequency, normal, and I want to change them to slow. I'm going to hit OK, and now you see they all got set. Hit OK. And I don't really know, I can't verify because there's nothing in here, so let's do our set columns again. And let's see what we got available. I don't really care about that enable anymore. I don't really care about that interval anymore. What I do care about is pole frequency. Okay. And you notice, hey, look at that. They're all at slow now. And then I said, oh, wait a minute, I didn't mean to set that to slow. I meant to set them to fast. So go to pole frequency again. And let's change them to fast. And you see now it says fast. And this hasn't updated, so I'm going to clear my search, find objects, and you notice now my pole frequency is set to fast on all those after it updates. So, pretty cool little tool. You could do some really quick changes instead of having to go to each individual proxy extension. Alright, changed it to normal. Go to my next one. Oh wait, I forgot to save it. Normal, save. Yeah, you do it in the batch editing under the program service, and it goes really fast and saves you a lot of time. So, and now you see those are the two I just changed to normal. So, very cool tool. Be careful, play with it. I would recommend saving your different finds. You can save them here. You can take screenshots, whatever, if it's something you use until you get used to using it and remembering how to navigate what's what. Very nice tool there to help do some batch editing and save you a lot of time in the field.